everyone. It's so nice to be here with you today. You'll have to forgive me. I have a giant tent that my kids built right behind me. Hopefully, it's not too distracting. I didn't have the heart to take it down. So there it is for everyone to see. Okay, let me just put a couple of links in the chat. So excited to have you guys here. We're talking today about how to have less pressure, less pain, how to quiet that inner critic that so many of us experience and try to feel better. So I want to start by talking about how, sometimes we tend to hold ourselves to impossibly high standards, right? We push through, we get it, we try to get it just right. We're expecting so much more from ourselves than anyone else ever could or ever would, right? But what if that very pressure is keeping your nervous system stuck in high alert? What if it's fueling your stress and it's making your pain worse? In this training today, we're going to break down how perfectionism and self-criticism keep your brain in threat mode, why this keeps your pain going, and most importantly, how to shift from pressure to peace. And I'll walk you through my pressure release pathway so that way you can start rewiring your brain's response, lowering stress, and creating lasting relief. So let's finally get you out of the perfectionism pain loop if we can, right? So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Dr. Anna Redmond. I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm also a chronic pain strategist for women. I'm the creator of the Anti-Threat System and founder of the Breaking Through Pain program. I help women stop being so controlled by their flare-ups and reclaim that energy and vitality that they know is still in them. And over the years, I have seen how perfectionism, self-criticism, and high expectations do not just create stress, they keep nervous systems stuck in overdrive, and that fuels chronic pain. And so that's why I created my anti-threat system, which is a science-backed approach to retraining the brain, shifting out of threat mode, and unlocking true healing that we all have inside of us. And today we're diving into one of the biggest barriers to relief, which is the pressure that we put on ourselves. But if you already know that you need a powerful way to break free from that stress pain cycle, quiet that inner critic, and let your brain finally feel safe enough to let go of pain, I do invite you to book a call. There's a link in the comments, or you can DM me if you have any questions or want to talk it through before booking a call. So let's get started. Let's get real for a second. If you have chronic pain, you have probably been told, or at least maybe you have felt, that you just need to push through. That if you just keep going, if you keep everything under control, your home, your body, then somehow your pain will also fall in line. But here's what that actually looks like in day-to-day life for a lot of women that I talk to. They're overworking despite pain. They push through exhaustion and discomfort, convincing themselves that slowing down would mean just giving into the pain, right? They have unrealistic expectations. So they set impossibly high standards for themselves at work, at home, in recovery. And when they don't meet them, they feel guilt and frustration. They feel like they're failing. I see this manifest as skipping self-care. So rest can feel super indulgent. Taking a break feels unproductive. And you tell yourself, I'll take care of myself when everything else is done. And everything else, as we know, is never done. I also see all kinds of things: fear of letting other people down, self-criticism for flare-ups, refusing to ask for help, rigid routines and no room for flexibility, and constant self-evaluation. We analyze everything. Am I improving? Did I do enough today? Why is my pain still here? It's exhausting, and it keeps you trapped in a loop of stress and frustration. I don't know which one of these sounds like you, but if one of them does, if you really connect with one of these ways that this can manifest, I would really love to know. So put that in the comments. And the truth is, and I'm going to make this as simple as possible because the nervous system is complex, but there's one thing that you really need to know, and that is that your brain operates on a simple system of threat versus safety. And guess what? Perfectionism and self-criticism scream threat. And every time you push harder, you judge yourself, or you try to control your way out of pain, your brain interprets it as stress. And that stress keeps your nervous system on high alert. It fuels pain even more. And even though we think perfectionism can lead to healing, like if you can just do everything right, your body will finally get the message and cooperate. it still doesn't happen for us. And let me put it this way. Imagine that you are driving a car with one foot on the gas and the other foot firmly on the brake, and you're revving that engine, you're pushing it forward with everything you have. But at the same time, there's this constant resistance holding you back. You're not making real progress, and eventually you burn out that engine. This is what perfectionism and self-criticism basically do to your nervous system. You're trying to heal, you're trying to move forward, but the internal pressure, the self-judgment, the impossible standards, the constant need to push through, it keeps your nervous system locked in stress mode. And when your nervous system is in stress mode or threat mode, it's kind of like that brake is permanently engaged and it keeps signals stuck in the on position. So many women tell me that they think that if they push harder, if they do it right, if they could just get it under control, that their pain would finally subside. But that's like thinking the car is going to move faster if you slam on the brake harder. And that's not how healing works. And I understand why we think this. I've done it before. I lived this for years, but that's not how healing works. Pain relief isn't about muscling through, and it's about teaching your brain that it's safe to let go of the brake, to release the pressure and allow the nervous system to shift out of survival mode. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how the pressure release process can help you finally shift from high alert into real relief. And the missing piece for many women I talk to is kind of like, well, then what do I do instead? So if pushing harder, being better, and trying to do it right isn't the answer, what is the answer? And this is where my pressure release process comes in. It's designed to help you gradually ease the internal pressure from perfectionism and self-criticism, shift your brain's perception from threat to safety, and create space for healing. Because here's the truth. Your brain cannot heal when it feels like it's under attack, even if the attack is coming from you. So let me paint a picture. Imagine that you're holding a beach ball underwater. You're gripping it tightly, you're using all your strength to keep it submerged, and at first that feels manageable. But after a while, your arms start to shake, your muscles burn, and eventually it slips. The ball shoots up completely out of your control. That's what perfectionism does to the nervous system. You push, you control, you hold everything together. You think if you just try harder, you can keep it all in check, but the pressure builds. Your nervous system stays on high alert, and the moment you slip, pain flares, exhaustion hits, and you feel like you failed. And usually that slip isn't from just one thing, it's from the buildup of multiple things. And the solution here is that you don't need to hold the ball under, we need to slowly let it go. That's exactly what the pressure release process does. It helps you gradually release that internal tension so that your brain stops seeing perfectionism and self-criticism as necessary for survival. The steps to this involve first, awareness of perfectionism, reframing critical thoughts, and finding the safety you need to let go. So let me explain. The first step is to recognize perfectionism as a barrier to healing, which hopefully this training today helped you with that. Because perfectionism is not a motivator, it's a roadblock. It convinces you that if you're not doing everything flawlessly, you're doing it wrong. But this mindset actually prevents the strategies that you are trying to use from taking root. So I see women who have gotten all the books, they've tried all the exercises and the breathing, and they did the curable app or this app or that app. And like the problem is nobody is talking to them about how like you're not doing those things wrong. That's not why they're not working. But there's a cycle happening there that actually prevents these coping strategies from taking root and being effective for you. So take my client Amanda, for example. She was stuck in the same cycle. For her specifically, on good days, she would power through. She was determined to check everything off her to-do list, but then came the crash. Pain, exhaustion, frustration, and she would beat herself up for not doing more, then push even harder the next time, convinced she had to try harder. And I've been there. Many women I've talked to have been there. People even without pain have been there, right? Her body wasn't failing her. Her perfectionism was keeping her stuck. And once she started recognizing perfectionism as a barrier, not a solution, she was able to break the cycle and build a sustainable, flexible approach to activity that didn't send her spiraling into a flare. Now, I'm using the word perfectionism But I think that word can include a lot of tendencies that fall under the category of a high achiever, a people pleaser, someone with self-criticism that kind of drives a lot of things that they do, or an inner critic. I talked to someone the other day who told me my perfectionism is weird. I have ADHD, and so often the follow through or the final product isn't even close to perfect, but my internal criticism is really similar to a perfectionist. So I'm just using that word to capture a lot of ways that it can manifest, and some of those you may be able to, that may resonate with you. The second step, after we recognize perfectionism as a barrier to healing, we want to reframe self-critical thoughts to reduce threat. So perfectionism and self-criticism often go hand in hand. It's an inner voice telling you you are not doing enough, you should be handling this better. It's like trying to drive a car with the emergency brake on. Remember, you're moving forward, but with so much resistance that it's exhausting, it's slow, and it's unsustainable. And that's why reframing is key, because, and let's be real, it's not as simple as just thinking positive thoughts, right? That's why I call it a reframing practice, because we're retraining the brain to reframe things or interpret things differently. So instead of, I didn't get enough done today, I am failing at managing my pain. Try, I listened to my body and made choices that support long-term healing. That is progress, even if I still had pain, right? Instead of, if I stop pushing, I'll lose control, we can think easing up doesn't mean giving up. It means working with my body, working smarter, not against my body. And of course, these may not feel authentic to you. Within my program, I work with women every day to figure out how to apply some of these strategies in a way that feels authentic and believable to them. But the idea here is that when you shift your inner dialogue from threat to safety, you change the way your brain processes stress and pain. And that's a total game changer. Now, the third step, after we recognize that perfectionism is a barrier to healing, after we practice reframing our self-critical thoughts to reduce threat, then we want to teach our brain that it's safe to release perfectionism. Your brain may have been conditioned to believe that perfectionism means safety, but in reality, it's keeping your nervous system on high alert. Imagine a teeter-totter. On one side, you have perfectionism, self-criticism, stress, and on the other, you have self-compassion, flexibility, safety. And when the threat side is heavier, your brain stays in defense mode, ready to fight, flee, freeze, or create pain to protect you. The pressure release process is about tipping the balance the other way, gradually increasing self-compassion, flexibility, and a sense of internal safety until your brain stops overreacting to every perceived failure and starts letting go of unnecessary tension and pain. And my clients who have embraced this shift have experienced less internal pressure because they no longer feel like they have to do everything perfectly to be worthy. They experience more consistency because they're no longer trapped in that boom bust cycle of pushing and crashing. They have fewer flare-ups because their nervous system isn't constantly on edge. And they have more control over their recovery. So they've stopped fighting against their bodies and started working with them. So let me tell you quickly about Lindsay. Let me tell you about Lindsay. She was the kind of person who never stopped moving. She was a high achiever, the one that people depended on, the one who got things done. And even as chronic pain started creeping into her life, she told herself, I just have to push through. And she did. By the way, I was just like Lindsay. And on her good days, she would pack her schedule, check every box, did everything she could to stay on top of life. But then came the crash, the flare-ups, the exhaustion so deep she could barely function. And in those moments, she didn't rest with compassion. She beat herself up. Why can't I handle this? I should be stronger than this. I am falling behind. I am failing. And so she pushed harder and the cycle repeated. And when we started working together, she was so stuck in this all or nothing loop, either pushing herself to the limit or crashing so hard that she felt completely out of control. And the first shift that we made was this gradual pressure shift. I challenged her to stop aiming for 110% on good days. Instead of pushing to exhaustion, here I'm losing my voice. When I have a lot of passion about a topic, I will lose my voice in the presentation. So she practiced stopping before she hit her limit. At first, she hated it. She felt like she was holding back and like not doing enough. But then she noticed something. Her crashes weren't as extreme. Her bad days weren't as debilitating. She was finally breaking the boom bust cycle. Then we tackled self compassion. Her inner critic was brutal. Every time she rested, she would think that she was lazy or that she was making excuses. And we worked on reframing those, not with toxic positivity, because that doesn't work, but with something more believable. When her mind said you should be doing more, she started responding with, I'm listening to my body and that's progress. Easing up doesn't mean giving up, it means I'm healing. Rest isn't failure, it's part of the process. And at first it felt unnatural, but over time, these kinder thoughts became more second nature, and her nervous system started responding with less tension and more calm. And then we worked on safe and flexible standards. So instead of measuring her success by how much she did, we shifted to measuring how she felt. She learned that doing something at 70% or 80% rather than forcing herself to overachieve wasn't failure. It was the key to staying consistent, which gives her back more time and more productivity, and the key to reducing setbacks. And so here's the best part: Lindsay didn't lose anything by letting go of her perfectionism. She didn't lose productivity or energy or control. She actually gained energy, control, relief. She stopped dreading the next flare up. She stopped feeling like her pain was a punishment, and she learned how to work with her body instead of against it. And the takeaway here is that when she stopped gripping that beach ball and started releasing the pressure, her nervous system finally got the message. You are safe. You don't have to push so hard. Healing doesn't have to come from perfection. It comes from releasing the need for it. And the best part is she didn't just feel better physically, she felt lighter, like she wasn't carrying the weight of impossible expectations. I want to take a moment here to address the question about somatic tracking, because there is some overlap here where we can connect these two things, perfectionistic tendencies and somatic tracking. And for those who don't know about this, somatic tracking is really about being present with bodily sensations without judgment. Sometimes we have a sensation and our brain begins to construct emotions, coping behaviors afterwards. Our brain's trying to predict, well, what does this sensation mean? What has it meant in the past? And sometimes those predictions aren't accurate because every moment is new or can be new. All of this is retrainable. So somatic tracking is about being present with bodily sensations without judgment, especially pain, discomfort, tension, so the brain can learn to interpret these as signals from my brain. These sensations are a signal from my brain. It is safe and I am not in danger. But perfectionism can kind of disrupt this, right? There's the pressure to do it right. Am I feeling the right thing? Should I be calmer by now? What if I'm doing this wrong? So perfectionism can make somatic tracking, which is a practice, very hard. It can almost turn healing into a performance, where we're constantly evaluating our success or our progress. This is the opposite of what somatic tracking is asking us to do, because it reactivates the very threat response that somatic tracking is meant to soothe. Perfectionism can really promote resistance to imperfection. I shouldn't feel this way still, or I'm failing if the pain is still there. And that makes it harder to sit with sensations in somatic tracking, the practice, that are uncomfortable. Instead of just observing pain with curiosity, which was one of the goals of somatic tracking, if you have perfectionistic tendencies, you may try to fix it or mentally escape it. And I work really hard with my clients on making this shift. And when we have perfectionism, and I think this is probably what shows up the most with my clients, we have rigid expectations of progress. If I do this meditation, I should feel better. This should work every time. Why isn't this working? And when somatic tracking, for example, doesn't work, what does work mean? When it doesn't work immediately, perfectionistic tendencies cause us to blame ourselves or the process rather than recognizing the deeper purpose, which is the process. It's not an outcome. Somatic tracking is not outcome oriented, it's process oriented, building a safe, new relationship with sensation, even when pain doesn't change. So it's a practice, and it's just one of many things you can do for chronic pain, but it is just a practice. Perfectionism can make that practice extra challenging. And this is something I talk about with my clients, and we work through this all the time. So I don't know if that's what you were wanting to know about somatic tracking, but as it relates to the presentation today, that's what I would say. My thoughts about it are that it's amazing. It's one of many, so, by itself, like many things, it's not going to cure pain, but it's one of many practices that fall along the lines of we need to recalibrate our nervous system. We need to retrain our brain's predictions when it experiences threat or sensations. We need to give it new data. We need to think of our sensations as signals from our body and not immediately that something is wrong or that we've done something wrong. And so that's kind of how I would connect those two things. But going back to the presentation and the things that, so instead of aiming for unattainable perfectionism, we want to focus on gradual pressure relief. These are small, manageable shifts in how you approach your day, not an all or nothing mentality. Self-compassion practices, techniques to quiet the inner critic and reframe unhelpful thoughts. And then safe and flexible standards, allowing imperfection and understanding that progress beats perfection every time. If we keep pushing perfection, we're going to keep flaring up our pain. If we can soften that a bit, we can have more sustainable movement moving forward that actually allows us to keep going. It gives us more energy, more productivity, and more time. Again, when you stop gripping the beach ball, that beach ball analogy, and start releasing the pressure, your nervous system finally gets the message. You are safe. You don't have to push so hard. Healing doesn't come from perfection. It comes from releasing the need for it. And that's the power of the pressure release process. And just like Lindsay, you don't need medication for this. You don't need surgery. You don't need a team of new specialists to start seeing a shift. The process is simple, effective, and can start making a difference within days. I also want to add here, and I can put the link in the comments, I created basically a flow of materials to kind of walk you through this. And so here, let me post it in the comments because I think this goes really well with that question about somatic tracking. And it then connects you to the pressure release part of all of this. Hold on 1 second. I will walk you through it here. So I'm posting the link here. It's kind of we can call it like a mini pressure release process. But basically you'll see that there's a couple of products it guides you through. So the first is what I call just a rapid pain relief starter kit. It involves some components of somatic tracking, but other components that give you like a bigger picture approach. It takes minutes a day to use. It's highly effective. As you start to practice, it can be highly effective in the moment, but then it can be a really important part of your healing if it's something that you use every day. If you purchase that first one, it's $10. I tried to make it just really acceptable. It's $10. If you purchase the first one, the next page will take you to an actual workshop that I created with an ebook about this pressure release process, perfectionism, chronic pain, that overlap, and how to just release that pressure. Definitely check it out. I would love, it's new. I sort of just created this. I'd love for you to think of it as a mini pressure release process, and please tag me or message me if you purchase it and you like it. Let me know what you liked about it. So just kind of keep me updated on that. Like I said, it's new. I just created it. But the idea here is that in thinking about that pressure release process, when you recognize that pain isn't just physical, that it is influenced by stress, pressure, and the way your nervous system interprets threat, you unlock a whole new way to create relief. And instead of waiting for the next treatment, the next appointment, the next flare-up to pass, you can start using everyday strategies to calm your nervous system and break the cycle of pain right away. Today's teaching is just one part of my anti-threat system, which is a proven approach that I use in my Breaking Through Pain program. It helps you shift from survival mode into a place of safety and healing. It's designed to empower you at every level. This method helps you shift from living in survival mode to living in a place of safety and healing by mastering mind-body techniques, mind-body literacy, aligning your actions with your values and what's important to you, and establishing a sustainable healing rhythm. And again, this the product flow that I posted, the mini pressure release, is almost like a mini version of some of this. But inside my larger program, we dive deep into this approach. I help clients break the cycle of pain and regain control over their lives. The idea is to create lasting relief and a true sense of balance along the way. So if you are someone who's exhausted from being stuck in survival mode, pushing through pain, second guessing every step, waiting for things to get better, then it is time to change how your brain perceives threat and safety. It's not about willpower. It's not about trying harder. It's not because you're not doing enough. It's about using the right strategies, the right way to calm your nervous system, to shift out of the stress pain cycle and finally take back control. We can figure out exactly what's keeping you stuck and, more importantly, what your unique path forward looks like. So if this all sounds intriguing to you, I invite you to book a call with me. You can use the link in the comments. You can DM me if you have further questions. But I want you to think of that as an opportunity, whether we decide to work together or not, as an opportunity to start building your unique path forward where pain isn't controlling your life. So on that call, we'll dive into how your current approach is affecting your daily life, the hidden patterns keeping you stuck in this cycle, and a clear science-backed plan for shifting into relief without burnout or rigid rules. And with the right guidance, you can stop letting pain dictate your days and start feeling safe, empowered, and aligned with what truly matters to you. Those are my hopes for you and what I try to deliver in this program. So if that sounds interesting to you, please utilize that link in the comments to book a call. You can go to drAnnaRedmond.com/discovery if you want to book that strategy call sometime soon. I would love to talk to you. So check that out. I do not see any other questions, but I am so grateful for seeing everyone who's here today and interacting with me, which makes it so much more fun. So let me know what you think and check out those new products, the mini pressure release products. I would love to hear what you think. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye.